Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
This program is suitable for general viewing.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Horizon TV. This is the live real talk, and standing in for Faisal Kassim, my name is Nadia Osman, and today's topic of discussion is all about understanding the Maslaha System. And joining me in studio is none other than Hanifa Adan and Salim, Mohamud Salim, who will be joining me later on the show to discuss about this topic that has taken not just social media but also some news outlets by storm. It's all about the Maslaha System. And I think that brings me to the first question. First, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. How are you this evening?
Great, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. And just as I was mentioning, today's topic of discussion is obviously understanding the Maslaha. And for anyone who's at home, who's listening to this, what exactly, when you're trying to make them understand, what is the Maslaha System?
The Maslaha System basically is one of the alternative dispute resolutions adopted in northeastern part of Kenya, you know, among the Somali communities. The Maslaha System, well, it's an informal way of solving or settling disputes among the elders outside the legal framework. So the Maslaha System used to work well, honestly. I'll give it its credit. It works well when it's used to solve petty offenses, you know, like a wife and a husband arguing, you know, like, you know, people fighting. I'll give it its credit when it's solving these petty offenses amicably. But it has been misused and corrupted so much that to the point that it's used to solve murder, rape, and gender-based violence cases. And that's where we go wrong as a community, you know. So the Maslaha System does not work for everyone, and especially the women. The Maslaha System has been ruined. It's being misused.
And that brings me to the next question. And that brings me to the next question. But before I get to that point, you've made a very, very good point. You've taken this fight to social media. Why is it important that you're using your platform to echo such a voice properly? Yes,
when I had one particular rape case, you know, if I may specify, because we do not like to speak of these things, but I will. We are used to, you know, sweeping this under the rug. We are used to keeping quiet because we think it's shameful. No, the perpetrator is the one who should be shameful and not the victim. So I took this on my social media, which I'm actually gained the attention it deserves, because they're trying to bury it. Because we need to talk about this. We need justice for these girls. You know, this is something we have to talk about. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Yeah, so I took this to my social media because I want justice for that girl. And I want people outside to know that this case exists and we are going to fight for it. It's not going to be swept under the rug. So I'm trying, basically my main goal is to get justice for the girl, because they are trying to solve this the Maslaha way, and I'm trying to get the legal justice that this particular 10-year-old deserves. So this is why I'm making a lot of noise online, and it's gaining a lot of attention, as it should, and hopefully the girl gets justice. Hopefully. And before I interrupted you, sorry, you made a point about obviously women, and it's one of the questions that somebody posed also on Twitter, and somebody asked, how sure are you that women and children get a favorable outcome from the Maslaha System? They do not, unfortunately. The Maslaha System is cruel against women and girls, especially young girls. Yes. You know, I'm going to go to this case again. If they're trying to bury a 10-year-old girl being raped by an old man, that means that there's no justice, the Maslaha system for young girls and women too, and gender-based violence cases too. So they're trying, every case favors the perpetrators, who are mostly men. So and it's against women and young girls getting justice. So there is no way the Maslaha system, there's no way women and young girls get justice, you know, through the Maslaha system. They are not. That's why we're making noise here. There's no justice for young girls and women.
Yes, and just to the viewers, for whoever is listening to this, now in February of 2018, the then Minister for Interior reportedly directed national government officials, including chiefs, to seize the application of Maslaha in determining sexual offences. So this is something that even the government has in the past mentioned. There's certain, there's a point where you reach where the Maslaha, system or the mediation does not work. And this in cases, as you've mentioned, the murder trials and also sexual offences charges. And when you're talking also about women and children probably not getting the same, for anyone who's listening to this, can you give us how, when a Maslaha system is being applied to a case, just to paint a picture, who is involved and who's making those decisions?
Yes, the Maslaha, consists of old men, basically sitting under the tree with both the family of the accused and the victim together, and the entire clans. So the case will be brought. They will discuss. There's something called blood money. So it depends on the case. For instance, if it's a murder case, you'll find, the accused being told to pay, 50 camels. And the case gets, dissolved. And if it's a rape case, maybe 20 camels or 30. And that's where we go wrong, literally, because we are letting these murderers and rapists scot-free mix with people, and that's why they keep repeating. So they're going to repeat over and over again. So it's an endless cycle. That's why we're trying to get in the legal way. This is the only way we're going to teach these rapists and murderers a lesson.
Yes, and of late, the Maslaha system has been on the news for the wrong reasons, for the wrong purposes. It's received a lot of negative reactions. A lot of people have even posed the question of how does this still happen in this day and age? And just to talk about the challenges, the negative side of the Maslaha system, as you've mentioned, criminals get to walk scot-free, interact with people. There is no fair judgment that's released. But I'm also seeing that also in a speech in 2012 by the former Chief Justice Dr. William Tunga, he actually said something, and I just want to quote his exact words. And this was a speech by the Chief Justice at the commencement of the Judicial Marches Week countrywide, and he said, and I quote, "We want to encourage the public to use alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, including traditional ones, as long as they do not offend the Constitution." And I think Salim has joined us. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're just getting the conversation started, and I know having you here, I will be able to talk about this. I'm just posing a question on Hanifa. The former Chief Justice had mentioned that he urged people, members of the public, to use alternative dispute resolution mechanism, including traditional ones. And I do believe the Maslaha system does fall under traditional mechanisms, as long as they do not offend the Constitution. I think you both answer. Do you feel that it has been abused, the Maslaha system has been abused?
Yes, it has definitely been abused. Like I said, the Maslaha system works well when it solves or settles these disputes amicably, petty offenses, I repeat, petty offenses. But it gets corrupted and misused when they try to solve murder cases and rape cases, because honestly, there are so many cases buried, so many victims shamed, perpetrators walking free. So it's definitely being misused. But yeah, it works well with petty crimes, honestly, but not major crimes. Yes,
Salim, I think you're going to answer that question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry, first of all, for coming very late.
Yes.
My apologies. And also, before I start, I want to put a very serious and express disclaimer that sitting here, we are not experts in Islamic law, because Maslaha also sometimes fall under Islamic law in terms of dispute resolution. Number two is that you quoted the former Chief Justice, Justice Willy Mutunga.
Yes.
You know what he said? He was just reiterating what the Constitution says,
Yes.
Article 159(2)(c), which encourages deployment of alternative dispute resolution mechanism, including, for example, mediation, arbitration, reconciliation, and also traditional dispute resolution mechanism. So in that case, he was just reiterating what the Constitution has clearly and expressly stipulated. And you know, the Constitution clearly stipulates that, but there is a disclaimer in the same article, but sub-clause 3, sub-article 3, where now, so long as if the ADR mechanism, alternative dispute resolution mechanism, is repugnant to justice and morality, if it contravenes the Bill of Rights, and also if it is in contravention of the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, then it will not have any legal standing at that stage. So it is always acceptable, but it must meet the 3 thresholds of the Constitution of Kenya.
I love how you've even quoted the Maslaha system works, but it works to a certain degree. And just my question now for, I think, Salim, how important is it that you educate the public on the law of Kenya? Because probably everyone is assuming that anything goes when it comes to the Maslaha system. How important is it that the public and those people who carry out the Maslaha system are educated on the law in Kenya?
I believe very well that the Maslaha system should also be, should be clearly accommodated in dispute resolution mechanism, especially in rural communities.
Yes.
Because that is what has been there. You know, when Maslaha system, especially the Kushite community, have been using Maslaha system even before colonization, long time ago. Even in what do you call during the Prophet ﷺ, at that time they used to use Maslaha system.
Yes.
So in this case, it is very important for people to understand how to prudently use the Maslaha system. Otherwise, the moment it is abused, now it will be of no benefit to the community and to the society at large, especially to the victims of the Maslaha system if it is abused. Number one, it has been used, there are a lot of merits regarding Maslaha system in dispute resolution within our communities. For example, marital disputes, communal conflicts, and so long as and other what you call offenses, but when now it doesn't meet the three thresholds that I've mentioned, then it now becomes it is now like look like a platform where now it is misused by the society now to cover up and to contravene the Constitution of Kenya, which is the superior law of the Republic of Kenya. So in this case, the merits are there, the demerits are there. For example, I will give you a good example. The High Court and many judicial decisions have clearly accommodated Maslaha system.
Yes.
There's a certain case regarding murder. It was a communal conflict where now the High Court opted to adopt the Maslaha outcome, the outcome from the Maslaha sitting. It was about murder. So when the victim of the deceased family was paid by the clan of the accused 1 million Kenya shillings. So then they brought the minutes of the meeting of the wazes, and the prosecutor also provided the same to the court. So in that situation, the court had no option, because for the court to determine a case successfully to the end, it requires witnesses. And if the witnesses are comfortable now at this stage that our son or the deceased is now gone, by now jailing this guy for long will not have any benefit to the community, knowing that the deceased has left kids, wives. So in that situation, so they opted to see from a different angle, where at least let us have this monetary value, so that at least we can sustain ourselves for future. Because when the punitive aspect of the law is applied to the accused, in this case, it it will just be a punishment to the accused, but of no benefit to the adverse, what do you call, family of the deceased. So in that situation, the court adopted it because it had no option. So the witnesses are comfortable. They are not ready to give testimony to the court. So what else? Nothing. The court will remain with nothing. So it had to accommodate that.
Very well put,
yes,
Salim.
yes.
And I think that's mentioning a very successful case that was solved with the Maslaha system. Now, of late, what we've seen is critics. People have become very critical of the Maslaha system. Some have argued that it infringes on individuals' rights. How do you respond to this, Hanifa, when you come to these concerns, and how does it safeguard, obviously, that an individual's rights are not infringed?
Sorry?
The critics, people have been very critical, especially on social media, about the Maslaha system. You know, and as Salim's mentioned, there are successful cases. Now, for the ones who are very critical of the Maslaha system, how do you tell them, like the Maslaha system will also ensure that people's rights are not infringed?
Oh, yes. I repeat again. For, you know, in order to ensure that there's, you know, brotherhood in the community, you know, the Maslaha system has also solved disputes amicably. You know, that ensures that there's peace, you know, among the clans and community, because there are so many clans, the Somali communities. So in order for the cases not to be dragged, you know, and to ensure that everyone gets their right and justice, it has also solved these cases amicably, repeat.
Yes.
So my concern is only when it goes to the other major cases. But in general, the Maslaha system has worked well for a very long time.
Yes.
And it also requires political goodwill, you know, for things to work generally.
Yes.
Because I think the Maslaha system, to some extent, you know, connects to politics. It's politicized. That's why it's corrupted. So, good political goodwill at
hopefully, inshallah. And Salim, before you joined us, I was mentioning something to Hanifa, and this was in February of 2018, and I read some of the Minister for Interior reportedly directed national government officials, including chiefs, to cease the application of the Maslaha when it comes to determining sexual offences. And not just to touch on anything, what do you think about this?
True, that is a very clear and progressive stand of a government official, because it is just now we are still going back to the constitution. Is it repugnant to justice and morality when it comes to the issue of defilement and rape, especially to what do you call minors? So when it now crosses that line, then we have no option. It has to stop, and it should also the Maslaha system should have a clear scope. It should have a red line where it can cross. For example, a defilement case. How can you solve it through Maslaha? It has happened. How can justice be attained and achieved by the victim, especially the minor in this case? If this person is what you call acquitted through the Maslaha, informal Maslaha system, then there is no justice, and it's also against the morality and also humanity perspective of it. We don't have any principle to stand on when we don't give justice to minors in this case. So it is very prudent that the government regulates Maslaha system.
Yes.
Because the Maslaha system, there is one thing I can tell you is that the composition of the people who are sitting in the Maslaha system, first of all of them are male. There is no female representative in the Maslaha system. I can confirm that from their perspective of Cushitic communities. Then when it comes now in that situation, and majority, can say majority, 99.9% are people who are illiterate. They are just elders because of the clan seniority and something like that. So in that situation, do you expect these people to give justice? No. Their whole mentality is about monetary compensation. And there are some things you cannot compensate. A minor, this is a teacher who does this thing and this thing, and defiles a minor. So the moment you solve through Maslaha, the same teacher will be meeting the same victim, the same place. the same teacher will have the opportunity to do the same thing to others.
Yes.
It will be like a circle. It will be like a cycle. It will be a continuous thing. So in such situation, there is a need to halt the entire aspect of defilement by doing what? By bringing the culprit to the justice system, so that he can be at least be convicted first of all, so that he can be removed from the society. Or, previously in the traditional system, they used to exile people. If you commit some kind of offenses, you're chased from that area forever. For example, if you're in Northeastern, you are told not to come back for the next 20 years, something like that. But this now, the modern system of what do you call, providing correction and also punishment is through the judicial system and prison system. So this need at least to make sure that what Maslaha system is engaging in, is it something reasonable first? Is it something reasonable? Is it against morality? Is it against the law? There are some things, for example, marital disputes, you can solve through Maslaha. There's nothing big about that. But when it comes to defilement, who will be the voice of the child?
Yes, very true.
Yes, so there is that linkage which is missing when it comes to the issue of defilement and rape, especially to the minors. So I believe that the government should actively regulate this thing. And the chiefs on the ground should be responsible for any Maslaha system that crosses the line of the Constitution in terms of contravening the Bill of Rights, contravening the Constitution of Kenya, and also anything that is repugnant to the justice and morality. So they should take what you call liability for anything that happens on the ground. It should start from the ground, so that any chief who knows that this thing is going on, he will be the first one to stop it, knowing that the buck stops with him or her.
Yes, and I think that's a very, very good point. And I'm coming back. You've mentioned ways on how we can improve the Maslaha system. I think we're going to approach first short break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to continue the conversation. So for anyone who's watching, don't go anywhere. We're coming back after a short break, so stay with us.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation. Verse of the day.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
وعباد الرحمن الذين يمشون على الأرض هونا وإذا خاطبهم الجاهلون قالوا سلاما والذين يبيتون لربهم سجدا وقياما والذين يقولون ربنا اصرف عنا عذاب جهنم إن عذابها كان غراما إنها ساءت مستقرا ومقاما.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله وثناء لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Holy Quran and He says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةً. The believers are nothing but brothers. And our brothers in Palestine are going through a lot, and we need to support them in any way possible. We Muslims here in Kenya, we can do two things to support our brothers. Number one is make dua for them. The same way that we are making dua during our salawat, Salat al-Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, we do qunut in our salah, and our Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to do this, and this is known as qunut al-nawazil. And you can also remember them in your dua when you're praying at night, or when you're breaking a fast, or between Adhan and Iqamah. The second way that we can help our brothers is support them financially and send them humanitarian aid. If you're willing to support them, you can send your contributions via M-Pesa, paybill number 150770, and account you can write Gaza, G-A-Z-A. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant victory to our brothers in Palestine and Gaza, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ease on their affairs. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Horizon TV. And before we went on a break, we were discussing the Maslaha System. And the question that I wanted us to start this second part of the show with is, Hanifa, how do you think the Maslaha System can be improved, in your opinion, you know?
The Maslaha System can be improved, you know, by not acting on the sexual violence, gender-based violence cases and murder cases. I think it worked well like it did in the past, you know, marital conflicts, you know, fights among clans. So, but the only way, honestly, for Maslaha System to be improved is they get off the murder, the sexual violence cases and the gender-based violence cases. That's the only way it can go back to its glory days, honestly. That's the only way I think the Maslaha System can be improved. And the community, the people of the community, not shaming the victims. There's no way a perpetrator is walking with his head held high and the victim is somewhere locked up, being shamed, being victimized. This is a 10-year-old kid. She should be out there playing, you know, being taught. But she's locked in, being shamed. She can't go anywhere because people are giving them eyes. It's not fair. It's not fair at all. So the Maslaha System can go back to its glory days if it gets off these cases and gives and let the victims get justice the legal way. That's the only way it can improve.
Thank you for that, Salim. And just as she's mentioned, the same question applies to you. How do you think the Maslaha System can be bettered?
First of all, I agree with Hanifa on what she has said about the modalities that we can employ to improve the Maslaha System. First, I want to categorically say that Maslaha System is there to stay because this is something that we found it is in our religious books. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says as-sulhu khair, you know. If we define Maslaha, first of all, it means something of common good, like public interest, you know. Maslaha, even if it is a Swahili word also. So the only way now we can improve it and accommodate it in our society setting is that first of all we need to have clear regulations on the scope of the Maslaha System. What kind of issues can Maslaha System deal with, and what list of issues that Maslaha System can refrain from. The moment we have those aspects of regulation, then at least they will know their place. Number one. Number two is when now we expand the capacity, what you call, or the human capacity of the Maslaha setting. Now, you know, it should not be just every person. You know, you should accommodate representative from somebody from the, what you call, even youth, like a normal system, youth, women, you know, the elderly, you know, people who are learned, also professionals, shouldn't be just people who are, when Maslaha issue comes in, they are called from herding their camels, you know. This should be a professional thing, where also it is also a necessity when the area chiefs are involved. Yes. So he must also be sitting in that kind of Maslaha system, so he can be also the secretary, noting down everything to ensure that the first issue that I mentioned in the regulation is met as a representative of the national government on the ground. You know, when we have those two modalities, then I think Maslaha system can be a very good, can be a very good mechanism of solving dispute without using the court system, because that is what the Constitution is giving us, to make sure that it now complies with the Constitution. That is the aspect of regulation. Yes, and to make sure that there is aspect of responsibility, liability. The liability lies with who when it contravenes the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. So I think when you employ those two aspects of it, then that is when now you will realize they will not deal with the issue of defilement of minors, especially minors, and many other issues which are now unresolvable. You know, you cannot even attain justice, even if you pay billions and billions of dollars. It cannot, you will never attain justice. Here's my point. So those two angles, I think it will improve everything. Like I said, the Maslaha system is there to stay. There's no way we can eradicate it. The only way is it is our baby. We will not throw the baby. We will have to dress the baby properly and protect it. And by making sure that the baby is not misused for other political or cultural goals.
And just to throw in something that we have seen a lot of people say on social media when it comes to discussing the Maslaha. People have said now this is, you know, anyone who's against the Maslaha, you are fighting religious leaders, you are fighting, you know, traditional leaders. Everyone assumes that this is not a fight for justice, this is a fight for the religious leaders. You're shaming them, you're going against Islam. What do you have to say about this, Hanifa?
Our religion is perfect, you know, but Muslims are not. So when you find one of them, you know, in the wrong, it does not mean that, and when they're called out, it doesn't mean that we are coming for the religion or the Somali community at that. So this is about that person in particular that did this crime. So it's not about our, and matter of fact, our religion, you know, requires us to call out, you know, justice, and it's about justice and fairness. So if we are doing anything, we are following our religion very well by calling out these offenders. It doesn't matter whether they teach our children, you know, this is beyond religion. So it's not an attack on religion or the Somali community at that, and that's what I need people to understand. So it also attracts a lot of Islamophobia. Many non-Muslims, or some will think that this is something that happens a lot and our religion covers it, but no, they are the ones who use religion, you know, for their own benefit, for their own corrupted benefits. So this is not what our religion teaches. You know, this is why young Muslims, you know, like Salim and the rest are out here fighting for this, because this is what our religion teaches us. Justice. We have to get justice for this girl, and it's because we get the fuel of, you know, bravery from our religion. You know, actually, this is beyond religion. It's about humanity now. So it's not about attacking the religion or anything.
Salim, do you have anything to add on that?
Yes, first of all, I want to also state that anyone fighting Maslaha system in general is also fighting a very strategic principle of fiqh, Islamic jurisprudence. We don't fight Maslaha system. We fight Maslaha system when it contravenes the same Islamic laws. When it contravenes even the national laws of the Republic of Kenya. When it contravenes the aspect of morality. When it is repugnant to justice. It is an obstacle to justice. You know, that's when now we are criticizing from the angle of the scope that they have the ultra-vires aspect of it. You get my point? That's
Yes.
one. Number two, when Maslaha System now remains like a platform where justice is attained, where it protects the aspect of morality, where it protects the tenets of the religion of Islamic laws, then we will have no room to criticize it. Number three, we should separate Islam from our culture. You know, when there are some what do you call it, some practice by especially Christian communities, which people misunderstood it as and think it is our religious teachings, yet it is just our cultural practices. So when any Maslaha System, now people accommodate cultural practices which are not in line with Islamic laws and bring it to the aspect of Maslaha platform, then it's not Islam which is wrong, it is our culture which is not the right thing. So it is not right and it's not fair to criticize Maslaha System, because Maslaha System is a mechanism which is accommodated all over. When you do mediation, by the way, any mediation, it's a Maslaha System. You're trying to solve this thing easily, without involving, without fighting, you know, without being litigious in litigation, in courts, this and this, and so it also saves a lot of time. So it is fair now when we criticize Maslaha System when it is misused through our cultural interventions. Get my point?
Yes.
So that is my point on that issue.
Very well put. And just, you know, we usually say every person has a role to play.
Yes.
The community, the religious leaders, lawyers, doctors, everybody has a role to play. What would you say to the public when it comes to obviously ensuring that justice is served regardless of who you are?
First of all, it is our responsibility. Everyone has a responsibility, has a legal duty, even from a moral duty, to ensure justice is attained, justice is observed, justice is implemented in all our settings. So that's why, you know, I've realized one thing, when we deal with the issue of defilement, especially to minors, there is a lot of multi-stakeholder engagement. First of all, the report is made to the police, the investigation officer is attached to that case, he goes to the hospital, now the responsibility comes to the medical officers there, who will do the examination. So the examination, now the IO has to make sure that the same is brought to the attention of the prosecutor, who will now draft a charge against the accused, you know, now from the police system to the medical officers, now back to the prosecution, or DPP, now that it's brought to the court system, now to the judges, to judiciary in short. So, and after that, then there are a lot of other stakeholders which are involved. Now the witnesses, the medical doctor who examined, medical officer, it can be even a nurse, anybody who in the first instance examined the victim. So they are well known as expert witnesses. They give testimony from an expert view of the examination medical examination report. Then there are witnesses, like for example parents, especially for minors. So they are also, everyone, all those people that I have mentioned, they have a moral duty and a legal duty to ensure justice is attained. Anyone who now becomes an obstacle to the anyone in that hierarchy can sabotage justice. For example, if the medical officer decides to misreport the findings, if the IO misreports to the prosecutor, you get my point. If the prosecutor fails to prepare his case well through the court system, you know, so that means everyone has a responsibility. Or if now the witnesses, the family of the victim, or an eyewitness who now fails or is afraid to give testimony in court, then now they are now failing in their duty to ensure justice is attained. So there is need to educate the public now, especially to the family, to our communities in our Christiatic settings, that justice is paramount. In Islam also justice is paramount.
Yes.
And we ought to have to ensure that everyone is compliant in terms of ensuring justice is attained through bravery. Like for example, if for example a mother is threatened with divorce, you know, he should just balance. Am I on the right side? You know, balancing the situation. And at the end of the day, what is the end result if I opt now not to help through the justice system? You know, so everyone has a duty. For the media people, they have a duty to make sure there is the aspect of reporting, clear reporting, what they call accurate reporting on this kind of issues, so that they can highlight these issues. It can come to the attention of legislators. You know, they can do something in terms of ensuring there is what they call legislative intervention when it comes to controlling all those kinds of issues. So everyone has a responsibility. There's also a responsibility to the religious leaders on the ground to make sure that they now advocate this thing through using their members by telling the community that issues of defilement has no excuse. Has no justification in terms of clan representation or through Maslaha System. And we should also encourage these people to come out and make a complaint. Yeah? There's what's called 72-hour activism, you know, from the time the victim is defiled, you know, because there is aspect of evidence, medical perspective of it. So what can we do now to ensure that people are informed that if your child report this kind of thing, what is the first thing you do? Are you going to cry or just go to the elders, or you are going to the police station, or you just go to the hospital directly? You know, there is all those procedures which now needs to be brought to the attention of the public, especially in our rural settings, because these people don't know anything. Some can decide to, if you miss one step, then evidence is destroyed. Yes, so if you stay 1 week and you want now to report that, then there's no evidence there. You know, it needs instant and expeditious reporting of the what you call defilement cases, and this needs to be addressed through our leaders, especially what you call the religious leaders on the ground, using their member, explaining to the people what can be do. Even the what you call as professionals in our capacity, what else can we do in terms of helping the community in doing that? So this obligation, this moral obligation, this legal obligation cuts across everyone. Yes. So that is the only way, that is the only route and the only path to make sure that justice is achieved, especially to the minors who don't have anyone else to run to, especially when there is cultural obstacles to the road to justice.
But I love how you've got into details and you've explained every single person and their role to play. And I know, Hanifa, you have decided to use your platform for, as your moral obligation rather, as Ms. Salim has mentioned. What do you have to say for everyone who's listening? How important is it to use your voice, and if you've got a platform to also use it? Sorry? How important is it to encourage people to use their platform as voices for those who obviously have not found justice?
It's very important actually. So when this campaign or fight started, I honestly knew what I was getting into, and when Jamal, the Sheikh got involved, got on board with the fight, it brought weight to this fight, and may Allah bless him, by the way. So many people, you know, came on board as well, because honestly he was the one who took this to another dimension, and it took a new you know, direction. So to also expound on how important it is for everyone to play their part, you know, the moral duty. So when the Sheikh came on board, you know, the campaign went and got the attention it deserves, and everyone understood that, from the religious aspect that this is not, we are not fighting the religion, you know, we are fighting the few rotten ones. So we also need to sensitize our mothers and sisters, like that is something that will play a lot, you know, in ensuring that we are getting justice for the girls. For instance, the shame is not on the victim, please, it will never be on the victim, please, the shame is on the perpetrators that are walking free. On using my platform, I knew it was going to get attention because that's the only way. Actually, it came to me because it was not working on ground. So that's the only way we could get this, you know, in the limelight.
Yes.
So it's very important to speak out. It doesn't matter where you are or what you do. Please speak out.
Salim, is there anything any of you would love to say before we wrap up the show?
You know, when in our cultural system and in our cultural setting as nomads, as Kushites, it is very hard to fight some things which are now clearly entailed in the societal settings of that specific area. For example, the moment you start this thing, people will start approaching you. They will send anyone. They will send even your parents, the way they usually do. And also there is aspect of security, especially to the legal representative on the ground. There is one of the lawyers who has been very active when it comes to the issue of protection of the girl child rights, defilement cases and all other things, FGM. When she goes to the ground, she needs what they call serious security around her, 24 hours security around her. So in that situation, that means it is a very risky path, and the only way we can now have the courage and use that path is by knowing that your intentions are very pure, you are doing this in good faith, and you are not there for any monetary or what do you call public fame. You know, so the moment you have that kind of intention, the moment you have that kind of objective, the moment you have that kind of goal, then nothing will stop you, even if you will risk your life. So it is very important that if the victim, if the accused is innocent, the court will decide. That's why the court has given the accused the chance now to roam around through the normal criminal proceedings. He was given cash bail or whatever bond. So in that situation, that means justice will be attained. So there's no hurry. There's no hurry. Even if it will take us 3 years, 5 years, 4 years, then we will be patient. If the accused is guilty, then well and good. If he or she is innocent, then well and good also. So this path is very risky and requires very courageous people, people who do this for the sake of justice, for the sake of Allah. And I encourage anyone who wants to be involved in this kind of thing to, first of all, clear his or her intention when dealing with this thing. We are not here, when we deal with such kind of sensitive issues, we are not there to settle political, what do you call, political vengeance or any other thing. So it should be, first of all, with a very clear intention, and the second one is the acceptance of the peril, the risk that is involved in that path. So the moment you have the acceptance and the good intention, then you will go ahead and do whatever you can to make sure that, you know, when now we use the social media platform, many people have told me through the DM, and even some of them calling me, telling me that, oh, we are spoiling the image of Islam. But I always tell them, what about the future of that victim?
Very true.
So the issue is, we are concerned about, you know, Islam is there, has been there. It will be protected until the last day. You know, so there is no day, even any social media or propaganda, or even what do you call broadcast media, propaganda has never had any Islam, the existence of Islam. The existence of Islam has never been threatened by anything on this earth. And we believe, because we believe until the day of judgment, Islam will be there. And at that time, we will be very glorious, especially to the end of time. So when we use the social media platform, first of all, the intention is not to settle political scores. Number two, it now makes sure that people who should be responsible to be responsible. For example, now there was issue of the sabotage of the case or compromise of the case by the prosecutor. Now we involved a senior person in the ODPP. Now he has to call that person and ensure that everything is good. So when this guy, the prosecutor on the ground, understands that this case is at the higher level, then he will have to be very professional. He will have to employ proper professional ethics in his work. You know, it is a win-win for us. Number two, through public advocacy, it has given the witnesses the encouragement, the courage now to come out and to be witnesses. First of all, they were ready to withdraw the cases. So and also it gives platform to other victims who have been hiding, to come out. All these things, and also it also creates awareness to the NGOs who eat sausages on the ground to do their work. They will understand that we have a responsibility, and people are watching us. They know that we are just eating sausages in our offices. So it helps a lot. It also brings the attention of the DCI, Director of Criminal Investigation, who now make sure the investigation officer. Sorry, I'm using our legal jargon. The investigation officer to make sure to be very firm in what he is doing. It now strengthens all the loop. It now covers all the loopholes that might have been created by the introduction and intervention of the Maslaha outcome, which has been brought on board. So it is very beneficial. People saying that we are shaming Islam, we are doing this, we are doing this. I don't think that is the case, and we believe that so long as when Hanifa started tagging the governor, but we had a discussion when you agree that it's not a county issue. Yes, it's not a county issue. At least now also she also got the opportunity to understand how now this thing works.
Political goodwill from these people.
Yes.
Because honestly, there's a lot the women rep can do.
Yes, the women rep. For example, we also talk to the. I will just disclose this. We also talk to one of the senior members of the county government, because the mother of the victim is an employee of the county, so that he can be given some time out of work to at least deal with these issues of stigma, seeking psychosocial support, all these things. They also have a responsibility in that case, but the primary responsibility when it comes to that defilement issue starts with the police, investigation officers, then goes to the prosecution, then judiciary, and now comes back to all of us, the witnesses and the public.
I'm being reminded because of time we cannot go on from there.
When I'm here, we don't end on time, so
we don't
you should understand.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. But I love how you've gotten deep into the discussion, alhamdulillah. We've talked about the good side of the Maslaha system. We've also talked about the not so good side about the Maslaha system. And it's also, as you've mentioned, it's very important for everyone to understand that they do have a role to play when it comes to exercising or ensuring that justice prevails. Thank you so much. I think I'll end there and say thank you so much for joining us. I think whoever's been listening has learnt a lot. Alhamdulillah. And as you've mentioned, this isn't a religious battle. This isn't a battle against our religion. This is just to ensure that the bad are called out. The people who, obviously commit crimes are called out, and ensure that justice is served. Once again, thank you, Salim and Hanifa, for joining us here on Horizon TV.
Thank you.
I think I'll end there because I'm being reminded time is not on our side. Once again, thank you so much for watching. This was the live Real Talk, and I was Nadia Osman standing in for Faisal Qasim. Until next Thursday, ma'as salam.